So welcome, everybody. We are now talking to HR leaders about driving sustainable innovation in their organizations. And I don't know about you, but as an HR person, I love to hear sort of the high level, but I also really love talking to HR people. And I think you find out all the details of what their challenges are and how they've overcome them. So I'm really excited about this session. And I'm going to start actually by asking each of you, Yasar, you could go first. If you could just give a quick bio so folks know where you're coming from, your path in HR, and then we'll move over to Dolça.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Jamie, for having me. Firstly, my name's Yasar Ahmad. I'm the Global Vice President of, I say people because it's the shorter title, but in reality, I manage talent acquisition, mobility, travel, rewards, internal comms, group comms. So for HelloFresh, I've been with the organization for about 3 years. I've been in HR for the last 10 years. Originally, actually, was more of a Scrum Master that transitioned into HR. Not usual transition, but it's one that's worked for me so far. So excited to be here, excited about the topic, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. Dolça?
So hi everyone. My name is Dolça Freixes. I'm part of the talent and culture team in Ferrer. I've been in the team for the last 2.5 years. Previously, I had experience in FMCGs, in consultancy as well, and always in the area of learning and development, talent, culture, change management, leadership. So super excited to be here to share what we are doing in Ferrer. Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. Okay, Yasar, I'm going to start with you. So you've described yourself as a fast follower when it comes to adopting AI. So what does that look like? And give us a little bit more detail on what is it to be a fast follower?
It's, so fast following is essentially copying and pasting. It's the easy way out instead of early adopting. So I think with early adopting, everybody wants to be an early adopter, but there's a lot of capacity taken. You have to trial, you have to test. What's the benefit of being the first? There isn't that much. If I can observe someone else doing something, a colleague, a peer in the industry, take what they've done, incorporate that into my work, that for me is a much more efficient way of managing my time, my capacity within the team. And essentially what that looks like for right now is how do we use AI to co-pilot our work? So what does that mean for talent teams? Specifically, it's around like using AI tools like ChatGPT to do copywriting, whether it's for internal comms, for newsletters, for job descriptions, candidate outreaches, or using DALL-E, the image creation tool for employer branding. Obviously, there's risks with that, with stuff like, have I frozen there?
Hopefully no, you're good.
I'm good. Okay. Using DALL-E to create employee branding images, or text-to-voice chatbots, or text-to-voice for offer letters, employer branding videos, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that you can do with AI in practice. For us, we just kind of absorbed the two ideas of co-piloting and fast following.
I love that. And I have spent maybe more time than I would like to admit on DALL-E creating cartoon characters of my dogs. So I understand that the allure of it, but also I love the notion of fast following. Dolça, I'm going to move over to you. Ferrer is a B Corp. Can you explain briefly what that means and what does it have? How does it reflect in your culture?
Yeah, so moving into, maybe the first thing would be to explain what the B Corp movement is, in case someone in the audience hasn't heard about that. So B Corp is a non-profit network of companies that aim at transforming global economy to benefit people. has the assessment. The assessment that they do on topics like governance, integrity, transparency, and obviously also environmental and social impact, among others. And we were super proud to be the first pharma company, Spanish pharma company, to become a B Corp, and also to be part of the top 25% of the top companies globally that are in the B Corp. And this is connecting it with our culture, super aligned with our purpose. Our purpose at Ferrer is we use business to fight for social justice. So get down into a bit more the specifics. Our purpose is deployed through the company, through our business strategy, which has 3 pillars. And those are great people, livable planet, and social justice. So I think this already explains in our business strategy. We don't talk specifically about pharma, which is our industry, but it's rather embedded in these 3 pillars. So yeah, maybe just to bring it down, if you want a bit more specific on specific projects, obviously within the pillar of great people, which everything related with culture and HR policies, we have lots of development initiatives like mentoring, for example. I'm sure many companies in the audience, you have mentoring, internal mentoring, where internal mentors support internal mentees. But for us, we're always asking, how can we go beyond the internal borders of the company, let's say? So we also have social mentorings where internal mentors accompany groups of people who come from vulnerable situations. So, for example,
that's fantastic.
We have a very nice one where we accompany through mentoring teenagers who come from vulnerable families that are at risk of dropping their studies. So we dedicate time within our work time to support them and to show them which kind of future they can have in a company if they continue studying. So this is just a nice example, I think, on how we are trying to go beyond doing business and fighting for.
I love that application of innovation, pushing the traditional boundary of or definition of mentoring to extend beyond an internal mentoring relationship. So thank you for that. That is a really cool application. I think sometimes when we think, and certainly I in tech, think of innovation from a technology perspective, but philosophically, that is also a beautiful example of an innovation. So incredible. Yasar, I'm going to move back to you because you're somebody who wears an awful lot of HR hats and comms as well. So how do you decide where the good candidates are for AI, and what criteria are you using to evaluate the tools?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the criteria first. So for many years, I think when you're a leader, you have to make a lot of decisions very quickly. So many years ago, about 2015, I came up with my own methodology of making decisions quickly, which essentially comes down to 3 primary questions. One is what I'm doing going to be automated? Is it going to save me time? Is it going to add more time? Number 2, is it human shaped? So is it ergonomic? Does it make sense for me? Does it make sense for the person? And 3, continuous learning. Can I learn from this? Can I iterate? Can I change my mind? Can I reverse the decision? So incorporating that into how we consider AI, it's fundamentally the same questions. So using this tool, is it going to save me time? Is it going to add more time? Is it human shaped? So does it have some human likeness to it? Is it going to be awkward for the user? Is it going to be awkward for the stakeholder or candidate or whoever is using it? So the human likeness or human shaped aspect of it is still there. And then the continuous learning is something that's very important when considering AI. AI tools change every week, every day, every hour. Yeah. So can I reverse my decision? Am I in it for the long run? Traditionally, HR leaders sign up to 1-year, 2-year, 3-year contracts with companies. How does that evolve when you're considering tools that are changing every week? So that's a really important discussion when we're talking about AI. Oh, is it a monthly subscription or is it a yearly subscription? And how quickly can we integrate? So the fundamentals still remain the same, just slightly editing the questions we ask ourselves. So that's how we evaluate tools, essentially. Those are the primary questions, and we have secondary questions that we can obviously deep dive into. In terms of how do we decide who are the good candidates? Again, it goes back to the kind of fast following. So for me, I'm very close to the ground. I've got my ear very close to the ground in terms of what people are using. Events like this are perfect. Listening to events like this, because you learn what other people are using. You get to understand, you get to ask, oh, you talk about AI, but what does that actually mean? What is the tool you're talking about? Can you tell me the website? And that's where you start to get these kind of soft reviews, which online now we know AI can actually generate reviews as well. So how much you read, can you believe, is also quite a difficult one. So you have to actually get real life testimonials to really check who are the good candidates. And I think your network is going to be a key in driving this change, because if you can speak freely to others around you in the industry and give something, but also get back from them what's working for them, back to the fast following, that really, really helps identify the good candidates, because the big players are not necessarily the best players right now. It's kind of a level playing field when it comes to AI. It's who's got the most information, who's utilizing it, who's being the most creative with it. So that's, in short, how I would do that.
You know, it's funny, when I think about my days in HR, I never felt like I had enough time to go to conferences, to build my network. And I realized I was losing so much insight, and really all I wanted to do was just to talk to other HR people to see how they solved the problems that I was facing. And I didn't do enough of it, honestly. So, that's really dinging a bell for me, because I think we need to, as HR people, we need to balance the doing with the networking and learning from each other, because I think we could save ourselves all a lot of time if we did that, to your earlier point. And I do love this notion of of people shaped. I love that expression because it sort of alludes to employee experience. But I don't know. I love that expression. So the next question, which is about employee experience, goes to Dolça, what are you measuring around your employee experience? And when you collect that data, what are you doing to drive changes in the organization? Maybe talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to employee experience, we used to measure our engagement, let's say, of our people and their experience through climate surveys like Great Place to Work, for example, which was a great tool for many years. But at some point, we also realized it was giving us a very specific picture of one specific moment. And we really were at the point that we needed more detail and more insights to deal with all the complexity, let's say, of the employee. We started this employee experience program. Basically, we phased it out, and obviously we started with a first stage of listening strategy, where we did lots of workshops, anonymous surveys, focus groups, you name it, all over Spain. The scope was not global, but still Spain gave us quite a comprehensive understanding of the situation, because we have here headquarters, so we have people in the offices. We have people who are in the field, so sales reps and sales teams, and we have also factories. So we have people who is working in the production line. And basically what we understood is how different the experience is and how different the pains and the woe moments are across these different groups of people. So having all these deep insights and all this information allowed us to really map specifically for each archetypes and for each groups of people, the different moments. So in the next phase, of course, we decided to map this employee journey. We understood that we have like 5 different phases with a total of 18 moments of truth. And for each moment of truth, we could really deep dive on how the different groups of people, they live it. And the stage where we arrived until last year is already starting to work on action planning, because of course this is just the starting point, the top of the iceberg. And we did that together with people who volunteer from those archetype groups.
Awesome.
To co-build and co-create potential action. So yeah, now we are in the moment that we need to, from out of the more than 100 initiatives that we co-created, it's the time to prioritize, because we have limited resources, but it's a great starting point.
I love it. The idea that I said this at the last session, the idea that HR can sit in a conference room together and design the processes for people that they haven't had any input from. Those days are long gone. We need to get really, really clear on what the people, we need to get more people centric when we're building out any of our programs. Yasar, your team used AI to automate routine email.
Totally. And that's for us what ensures that later the rollout is. Sorry, Jamie, my connection, I think, is not very good. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. No, but what you're saying, that's how you make the innovation sustainable. It is by having those stakeholders, those archetypes, to actually look back and say, yes, I see my fingerprints on this design. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move over to Yasar here. So you used AI to automate routine email responses, and can you just tell us what that looked like? And I want to know. There's a story I heard that people think that AI has helped give the impression that you're much nicer on email than you are in reality. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's a funny one. I'll get to that. So let me answer your first question. We started using AI specifically, we started replying to emails using AI to copyright some of our responses to give more of a customer experience to our internal employees. So a number of the help desks that we run in the HR team get lots of emails, lots of repetitive emails, lots of very bland emails. Hey, I don't know how to log in. Hey, I don't. And, you can keep writing the same email. Well, go to this. And I thought, well, why don't we kind of customize this a bit more and take the emotion out of it? Because after receiving your 20th email in one day where it says, I don't know how to log into this, you kind of get a bit fed up. And as a human, you may start to let a bit of the emotion slip. You're not so nice. So your emails at the beginning of the day are a bit more politer by the end of the day. And so we didn't have no guidance on this. Initially, it was kind of this chaos theory. There's method in the madness. And my thought process here was, we don't know how to use this. There are some good practices, but there's no such thing as a best practice right now. Instead, what I'd like everybody to do is A/B test. Do one version here and one version there, compare, learn, and then take it to the next level. The fast following method works to some degree here, but that's more from an educational perspective. How do I prompt? How do I do this? So that's easy enough. The story referencing me being a lot nicer, I noticed in my career, many leaders tending to respond with one-word answers.
Yeah.
And I picked up that response. Yes, okay, approved, cool, thank you, nice, well done. And I thought, let me try just creating some more personalization. And I started integrating some of my current emails into using AI. And I would simply put, please remove the negative connotations and replace with positive connotations. And I remember bumping into a colleague of mine and he said, what's happened to you? And I said, you just seem so much nicer. And I was like, well, I haven't spoken to you in months.
People started giving you hugs in the hallway.
Yeah, he's like, well, you just seem so much more nicer. And I'm like, I'm always nice. But he obviously, I haven't spoken to him in person or a video call, but I'd been doing so many email exchanges, and obviously he'd been experiencing this different approach. And I realized it wasn't making me sloppier. It wasn't making me slower. I was actually making me better. Now I don't need to use AI as often because I already have kind of reminded myself by visually repeating and copying and pasting and seeing, it goes a long way by just saying, hey, how's it going? Really nice work, by the way, or using kind of a methodology to responses. I like this. What if we do this? As opposed to, no, that's not going to work. Let's go with this, And so that kind of refreshing reminder was something I really appreciate with AI. And it was a kind of an known for me. I knew about it, but I known this all along. We all know this, but it's nice to be reminded of it in a unconventional way.
Well, you've just given me a brilliant business idea because as a Canadian, we're known to be very nice. So I'm going to create a Canadian nice GPT and you can put all of your comments in there and you'll end up with something that will probably end at the last bit will be sorry, just in case, to be classic Canadian.
I'll be your first customer.
There you go. Well, speaking of AI, though, Dolça, what are your thoughts around AI, and how are you currently applying AI in your organization?
Yeah, and I'm laughing because I was taking notes while Yasar was speaking, because all those best practices are also super good ideas for us to implement. I must say we are at a different point with implement. Oh, I think I dropped for a second. I was just saying that for us, it was not that much in the focus until recent years. So we were really focused on the cultural transformation. We really shift the culture of the company 360 degrees in the recent years. But I have a quite exciting announcement that I can publicly share today with you, which is since last week, we have appointed a new chief in the board of directors who will be leading the digital data and AI agenda. So that's actually very exciting news on these roads, and I'm sure we will catch up fast with the rest of the industry. But having said that, I mean, the fact that it was not in the focus doesn't mean that we didn't do anything in respect. So I think one of the nicest projects we launched a couple of years ago in the commercial area is a tool that works as a co-pilot kind of for the sales reps. So basically it analyzes, it's called Next Best Action. And what it does is analyzing all the initiative, commercial actions we've taken with each of the clients, and also market trends and previous reaction to what we've done with that client. And the tool recommends what would be the next best action that the sales rep could do to maximize commercial opportunities. So that's actually that it's working. It's working super good with our sales teams, and it's something that we could potentially envision to replicate into the HR side. So I would be very excited to see soon some sort of leadership co-pilot implemented in Ferrer, which kind of also connected with what we were discussing before on employee experience. It kind of helps the leader understand in which moment of truth that they have, how engaged are they, etc., etc. So it suggests potential next actions for that leader.
Oh, we'll have to have you back next year to hear about that, because that sounds incredibly cool. Okay, Yasar, thinking globally, acting locally. Despite all of the challenges that exist globally, what do you think our role as HR people, what's our role to help incorporate AI better into work now?
It's a great question. I think we have to first accept who we are as a team and what we stand for. So what that means is HR is not going to be the usual first adopters of AI, or even they're going to be a bit apprehensive. Usually when you talk about AI, what are the restrictions? Everybody has an answer. Oh, regulation, copywriting, privacy, biases, repetitive, bland, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we could be pessimistic about it, or we could be optimistic about it. And being an optimist, myself, I usually start off with, okay, what can I control in my remit? I don't have to change the world, but looking at simple things. There is a number of surveys out there. You can just Google them. I can't reference them right this second, but the biggest drains on employees' productivity are meaningless tasks. So those meaningless tasks, how can we address those? I think it was something like 66% of employees said that number one thing that drain their productivity is meaningless tasks that don't add any value. Okay, well, how about we look at that within our own teams first? How are you replying to emails, your calendar invites, your meeting notes, whatever it could be? Simply just optimizing, taking that one step at a time. Almost look at it as if you're going to the gym. You're not going to get a six-pack overnight. But if you work at it, you have a good, healthy diet, you're eventually going to start building the fitness you need, the body that you want. Same with AI. I think the mindset shift has to be, instead of trying to revamp the entire world, change the entire world, like, okay, what can I do now with what I have? I don't need to be an expert. Additionally, HR teams, people teams, even to some degree finance teams, need to look at the industries that are really evolving with AI, for example, sales and marketing, where predominant investment is, especially in the marketing sector. There's a lot of optimization, automation, instead of the one-to-one, one-to-many approach, where it's like, okay, how can we utilize what they're doing in our industry? And then, or even in our department, if you're in the team, you're going to your marketing CMO or to your sales directors and asking them, what are you doing? What would you like to do? You can start to uncover problem statements. Some sales directors, obviously, and some marketing leaders are not adopting it, but definitely in the marketing space, I think there is a lot of adoption. Can be replicated into our fields really well. And if that's the easiest starting point. And if all else fails, just become a fast follower.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting what you say, because a few years back, we started seeing marketing people coming into HR, mostly because they were the ones that had experience doing customer journey maps and building out those personas or archetypes. So it's interesting to me that the same could be said now, that you could be learning from other functions in your organization to see what they're up to and to apply that as well. Somebody said last week at our conference in North America, AI isn't coming for your job, it's coming to your job. And so the idea that we embrace it with, with safety concern, but optimism, I think, is a much better approach than cowering in fear. Dolça, let's talk a little bit about your skills and skills gaps and reskilling needs. What does the future look like as it relates to upskilling, new skills that are going to be required at your organization? How are you thinking about that? Because everybody's talking about skills these days.
Yeah, I know, and that's also a hot topic for us. So obviously, what we do right now, the L&D strategy, and when we think about skills, it all starts. The starting point is the strategic plan, right? So the first thing we need to understand is where do we want to take the business to, what are our plans for the future, which kind of challenges are we going to face, and also keep an eye in the external, like what are the skills that are trending, which skills we might need that there's a shortage in the market, and so on. So this is the initial picture. But then the next big question is, which skills do we already have? internally.
Right.
And that's something that for this, until now, we were doing in a bit more informal way via interviews and so on. But this year we are planning to implement what we call the talent card. And that's something we will implement in Betterworks actually through a conversation template. And it will allow us to tackle this double goal. So from one side, this talent card, the conversation template will provide us with some guide for managers and teams to start discussing more like future-oriented ambitions and where do you want to towards which directions we were having until now were quite. Yeah, I came back. So the development conversations we were having until now were quite short-term focused. Kind of, I received this feedback, so I'm gonna apply these things, or I'm gonna develop in this way. And the second goal this talent card is gonna allow us to achieve is to start having a more in-depth mapping on the skills our people has. Which skills they feel they are strong already, they are experts, which skills they would like to keep developing, etc. So with this double side, the skills we will need and the skills we have, we can identify the gaps and then obviously from the talent team do the cooking, let's say, which still happens manually. Hopefully at some point AI will replace it, but for now it's more on having this overview and this which profiles we might need to buy externally or what do we need to borrow potentially for a short period of time. Now, this is the short term, what we are going to do this year, but obviously we think a little bit further. We envision something a bit more automated, and we envision like a skill marketplace where people can keep adding their skills. You can contact people who is expert on that skill you want so they can mentor you. And we also envision moving from roles into skill sets so that careers become a bit more diluted, let me put it this way, instead of like step A, step B, step 3. Really starting to walk the path towards talking about skills and not roles, and finding ways to automate all the skill mapping and the understanding of the skills we will need in the future.
And can you imagine what that would look like if you're pulling together small project teams for, say, 90 days and being able to build out a team with very specific skill sets, but sort of like a micro placement that allows you to tackle a small project and then, disband so that you're seeing different skill sets coming together. I think there's a lot of it. I get very excited when we start talking about the possibility. But you did mention cooking when you answered the question, which means I have to go back to HelloFresh, of course, and ask Yasar, how are you thinking about skills and all the buzz of skills these days?
So I take a bit more of a simplistic view on skills training. I think as an organization, we're constantly recognizing and understanding that there are gaps. The customers are changing. Our needs and wants as a business is changing. I think for us, what we're trying to do is more autonomy around our learning and development opportunities within the organization. So what that means is individuals currently have to kind of rely on the organization to provide some form of training in a lot of companies. Whereas in HelloFresh, what we'd like to do is for you to take a bit more autonomy on your training. So it kind of sounds counterintuitive to say, hey, you're in control of your training. That means you go train yourself, go pay for your own, we'll give you some money, go pay for your own training. And it's a bit like scrappy. It's a bit more startup style, but it sometimes actually works better for us because the individuals know exactly what they need. And it's not always like hard skills. Sometimes it's soft skills. We find currently at the moment, when you evaluate our leadership, it's a lot of soft skills training. The new generation of employees that are coming in, it's a lot of soft skill, emotional intelligence training, communication training. And believe it or not, that's where we're finding a lot of the disconnect with what we expect from an employee and what they're delivering. It's as simple as emotional intelligence, not understanding how to communicate, how to collaborate, some of the fundamentals that you would expect. And I think this comes with the new generation of employees, the Gen Zs, etc. There is different expectations in the workplace as well. So from a skills perspective, we want to create more independence for the employee. We want to double down on the fundamentals, the basics, and eventually we will start going back to the hard skills. We've given department leaders the responsibility more so to kind of create their own forms of academies, so to speak, to train their employees, as opposed to doing it centrally, because we're not subject matter experts, right? And we're not going to be, we're not going to be able to teach coders the next language, but you can create your own tech academy, et cetera, et cetera. So nothing special there, nothing out of the ordinary, just more back to the basics, keep it simple and not overcomplicating it.
Where would you see your soft skills residing in terms of, does that also land into the various groups' academies, or is that something that you do centrally?
Kind of see it like a tapestry of it. A bit of both. I think you have to centralize communication to some degree, or just soft skills in general, because there's an operating model in the organization. There's a culture, there is a DNA, there are values that you want to enhance in the organization. So trying to do that departmentally, you may even create a miniature culture, which might not necessarily be the right thing. Whereas if you centralize the tone of voice that we use in meetings, so for us, we have I absolutely love our DNA. I use it even in my personal life. And one of them is relentless prioritization. Are we focusing on what we're doing? Is it making the biggest impact? I know we're not talking about skills here now. We're now talking about culture and DNA. But essentially, that's what drives our operating model, having these kind of values per se. Same goes for communication, the way we communicate. Same goes for emotional intelligence and just understanding how collaboration works, what is expected of people. It could be as simple as what's expected of people when it comes to meetings, retrospectives, workshops, all hands meetings, town halls, just having a centralized view of like best practices from the top, then going to the mid-level, to management, and then to lower level. I think that driven centrally as opposed to by the academies, so to speak. I think academies are very specific to customer problems. That makes it more flexible for them.
When you're talking about prioritization, I am a massive HelloFresh customer, and talk about it just made me reflect, because part of the culture that you described is also what's extended to my household in terms of prioritization, even down to the steps that it takes, but also very human-centered, because it allows me to create beautiful meals. So a little plug for HelloFresh, but it's nice to see that there is a connection between the customer experience and the culture that you have.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question coming from the audience. It's for Yasar. How can we develop AI capabilities in our HR teams? How can we become adopters?
Yeah, so there is some pre-work that needs to be done here. So if I'm to answer that question properly, how can you help your HR team adopt AI better? The first step is your HR team willing to adopt AI better? And firstly, how do you convince them to use AI more and not be so apprehensive? So there is a mindset shift. I could give, and I have many times given so many tools to my teams. In fact, if you Google search HelloFresh Tech TA Radar, it will show you all the TA tools we're using. I think it's like 53 different tools we've trialed, tested, on hold, what's adopted, what's not. And you can give everybody everything on a plate, but if they don't see the value in it, they don't understand what it's going to benefit them, why it's going to benefit them, it's going to be very difficult. So the first thing is the narrative that you're controlling in your organization. A bit more strategically, this is for leaders specifically. For managers, if you're mid-level and you're not driving that strategic direction, you could just simply just show the ROI. Literally, this is what you will get if you do this. The impact. I saved myself 53% of time. Give an example of help desks. If you take an average of 1 minute or 2 minutes to reply to every email, and using some form of AI, whether it's not plugging any specific tools here today, but there is plugins that you can add to your AI, to your Chrome extensions or whatever tool you use. It could be 30 seconds. Okay, if you're replying to 400 emails, that's a significant amount of time saved. From a percentage standpoint, what does that look like? Going back to your team, hey team, I had a great tool that can save you 53% of time. It's going to take you about an hour to get used to, but it's going to save you 53% of time. And this is going to be, you get this time back.
Yeah.
And people find it really odd when I tell them I have 4 hours free every day. So 4 hours free, no meetings, no agenda.
And don't forget, and you're a lot nicer.
And I'm a lot nicer, exactly. and I've been doing this for years, right? It's this kind of idea of having more, just what is the value first? What's in it for me? I think if you want to adopt HR, the easiest way is how can I be extremely selfish with this? What am I going to benefit from this? And then you use that answer to then sell to the rest of your org. And that's how you're going to get AI adopted, irrespective of what you use it for. It's just as simple as that. It's how you communicate, put the idea in people's head, make them believe it's a good idea, and then everything else will fall into place. It doesn't matter what the process is or tool is, etc. That's a starting point, I guess.
I love it. Hung is coming back on stage. Hi, Hung. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I mean,
wasn't that an amazing conversation?
Yeah, every session I'm like wanting to hear more. I don't want to come on screen. I want to continue listening to all of this amazing stuff. And I'm sure everyone in the crowd will feel the same. Aren't you learning so much, just like absorbing this information that's being shared on screen here? But yeah, fantastic to hear your thoughts, everybody. I love some key concepts. I've been making notes on this. The human-centered, the human-shaped. I think these words are really quite important. They help us like think around how we need to deal with this AI enablement process that we're in. And we need to kind of move away from that tool centricity and into human centricity and make sure that we're kind of the ones in control of how these products get implemented into our processes. So folks, listen, I feel like the bad guy having to come on and saying, look, we're moving on to the next session. But please, everybody, make sure you connect with Yasar Ahmad. Please make sure you connect with Dolça. Also, connect with Jamie. These are all people that are happy to have conversation with you. Let's keep the conversation going, even though we're moving on to the next session. I think the best thing, one final thing before I jump in. One thing that came through really clear from you, Jamie, was this need to create space to connect with community.
Yes.
Everyone is busy. HR, people work, that's a never-ending job. If you had 25 hours in a day, you'd take 25 hours. What we really want to do is take a bit of Yasar's, maybe not 4 hours, but we could take maybe 1 hour and then use that time to connect and create community. Okay, folks, we have to wrap. We're going to go to the next session. We're talking customer awards from Betterworks. So we'll see you over there at the next place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.